Welcome to Dante Harmony's podcast, your source for sacred steel music, mentoring, and motivation. Today, we are taking an in-depth look at stopping the silence on domestic violence, plus 5 takeaways for survivors. I'm excited for my guest today. Lorrie has been around, for some time. We've been knowing each other for a long time. Lorrie is the CEO. Lorrie is the CEO of a 501c3 company called Victory Over Violence of Florida, and where she dedicates her time and her expertise, and even as a survivor, to other people who have been either sexually assaulted, who've been a survivor, or who maybe some people who are not survivors of domestic violence. She has used her platform to talk about this subject matter. Lorrie has a book, and we'll dive into the book a little bit. We did the last year when we were live together, and her book is entitled Free. And I listen, go to the website that you see on your screen, author Lorrie, eawixsite.com. Go to Amazon. Listen, order the book. Order the book. You will not be disappointed. Lorrie is very transparent with her story, and she has a story to tell. So without further ado, let me just bring her on. Hey, Lorrie.
Hey.
How's it going?
Thanks for having me.
This is exciting. I'm so glad that we are able. Listen, with all the technical difficulties that we had today, you know, there's something's good that's got to come out of this.
Tonight.
Somebody's gonna get set free tonight.
Tonight, free indeed.
Free indeed. So it was last year this time we were having this conversation about domestic violence and the issues with domestic violence, and you were able to talk about it, and you were just fresh off of publishing your book. So before I go into that, first of all, how are you? How are things?
I'm good. Busy. This is a busy time of year for me. So, just got a lot going on, planning a lot for the nonprofit,
right.
And, work and, kids in school, but the work continues. So
this is good. So there is a, what I'm excited about is just talk, first of all, how, and the book is doing well.
Yeah, I get these bursts of people that are interested, and so far I've been invited to several events this year. So there's a couple more book signing events coming up. There's some Meet the Author events coming up, and I'm just excited that the doors are opening to talk more about the book.
That's good. That's always exciting to know and to hear. And man, that's really good. So October is what?
Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
And a lot of people don't know that. So we definitely want to bring some light to that. It is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So you have been very active, and your book is so transparent when it comes down to the subject of domestic violence. In your own words, just tell me, or do you want to share a little bit without giving too much of your book away of what you what any reader that may not have read your book, what they would expect reading it?
Well, they can expect to experience my life growing up as a young woman, headed off to college, big dreams, heading off to the big city of Tallahassee, with Florida State, FAMU. You follow me on that journey of being an excited young woman to experiencing things that I was just not ready for. I was brought up in church. that is mentioned up in the book, how I grew up as a PK kid, very
Wow.
sheltered. Um, Parents were very protective.
Yeah.
They gave me that Bible based foundation.
Hmm.
But when I went to college, I experienced things that I just was not ready for as a young woman.
Right.
I was not mentally ready to deal with the pressures of just premarital sex, promiscuity, whatever you want to call it. I just was not ready for that.
Right.
And, fast forward, I got my life together, met a minister in church,
Mm.
and he had issues.
Mm.
He had issues. And that's where the domestic violence began. It
Wow.
began with a minister of the gospel.
Wow.
So,
We're going to talk more about that,
yeah.
as we progress in the conversation. But that is so that, yeah, it goes without saying. We've been quiet for too long, and I think that was kind of it resonated with both of us when we said, okay, well, what are we going to entitle our talk? Stopping the silence. Stopping
Yeah.
the silence with domestic violence. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that goes without saying. That goes without saying. So we're going to dive into that. I want to come back to that because
Okay.
that is so interesting. So Domestic Violence Month, October is the Domestic Awareness Month, and you are very active in your community. I've been before the pandemic. Of course, I was a speaker at one of your events that you do yearly, and of course, with COVID and everything that's going on, it is kind of plummeted everything, all of our efforts and plans of things that we want to do, and we're doing what we're
Right.
doing now, going virtual.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about domestic violence and awareness with sexual assault. Can we talk a little bit about statistics? I'm going to share my screen and just show
Yeah.
everyone what you shared with me in relations to the statistics on domestic violence.
Yeah. So the most recent statistics with the CDC's National Intimate Partner in Sexual Violence, it's the words are interchangeable. So you can hear people talk about domestic abuse, intimate partner violence. It's all the same. It's all abuse. It's all the same. But 1 in 4 women and nearly 1 in 10 men have experienced sexual violence, physical violence, stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime. So when you're talking about 1 in 4, that's 25%.
Wow.
So if we take that to our local community or our local church, if you've got 100 women, 25 of those women have experienced some type of violence or abuse.
Wow.
25 out of your 100 women in your church.
Wow. Wow. That is a huge number, and I don't think people really understand the magnitude of those statistics. So when we talk about that in statistic with the statistics now, these are current.
These are current.
These are current.
These are current statistics. Yeah.
That
Yeah, you're talking about 1 in 4 women and then 1 in 10 men. So out of 100 men in your church,
Right.
10 of them have experienced some type of violence or abuse. And people try to, say this is a woman's problem. No, you've got some men have been hurt too.
Right. And that goes without saying, men, because men are we're quiet when it comes down to that issue. We're ashamed. We don't speak up. We don't talk. We don't say it out loud. And sometimes it looks crazy because of the fact that it's a man. But it is an issue with men as well as definitely is with women.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Right. You get 10 men that have been abused and mix them with 10 women that have been abused or violated or hurt. And these men, maybe it happened when they were younger or they watched their mom be abused and the issue was never addressed. Now you've got 10 men who have been hurt and abused, mix those with 10 women who have been hurt and abused, and tell them to go get married.
Wow. Wow.
And nothing's ever been addressed.
And
So-
right. So they don't know how to navigate through relationships. They don't know what it is to be in a relationship. and to have that traumatic experience happen to them. There's no education. There's no one I can actually talk to about the situation. There's and even professionally. I hate to say this, but especially in the church, we shun therapists, we shun counselors, we shun people that are specialists in certain areas because we like to over spiritualize things. Would I be accurate in saying that?
Yeah, just pray about it.
Right. So, we don't want to, or just throw oil on them and rub them down and grease them down and just let that be the, all in all, fix it all and just let that be. But you and I know that it doesn't stop there, and people really need to be educated, and they need advice, or they need counseling, they need therapy, they need help. So one of the things I definitely want to make sure we offer, and that is there's always a helpline, and I want to put this on the screen now. I'm going to share this a couple of more times doing this.
There's resources.
Yeah, there are a lot of resources that we can actually go to. So there's a National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. There's the website there on the screen. And then we have the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Okay, there I go.
Okay.
All right, so we have the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Then we have the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1-800-799-7233 or 1-800-799-SAFE. So again, there's so much information that is here, and people may not be aware of what's available to them. So so we talk about the statistics, and it speaks for itself. There's so much out here. There was a statistics that there was this one specific statistic that you gave the last time, and I don't know if it was you or if it was Val, about the minute or in within an hour. Do you remember that one?
Every I think it's 30 seconds or 20 seconds or something like that, somebody is abused or battered.
Wow.
Wow. And yeah, it's astounding. And I would love to see the statistics since COVID.
Gotcha.
I would love to see the accurate numbers since the pandemic started. Unfortunately, there's probably not a really good number because a lot of people didn't report during the pandemic.
Wow. So
they were in isolation. They were in quarantine with this person. Who are they going to talk to? Where are they going to go? And to me, that's where families who say, that's not my problem, I'm not getting involved. Yeah, you have to, because if you love this person, like you say you love them, and you know something's going on, or you haven't heard from them, that's the time to intervene. The last thing you want to do is find out someone was in a situation where they couldn't leave, or their kids were hurt or something, because you didn't want to get involved. Right. It's kind of like when you don't hear from somebody or they don't show up to work. If you had a coworker that didn't show up to work for 3 or 4 days, you would say, hey, you seen so-and-so? Bobby's usually here by now. He hasn't been to work in 2 days. Maybe we should call the house. Maybe we should go by the house. Okay, let's take that to the church. If your pastor knows you are a regular member and you stop showing up and you're normally there, why not do a well check on a member?
Now that's something that I think you just gave. That is one of those to-dos. Check on them. Be there for that person, and show up for them in some type of way.
Some type of way.
And to not do anything is just unacceptable. Right.
It's just not, especially if that person, they've shared with you that they're either afraid of their spouse, or something's happened in the past that they've shared with you. You can't just ignore that. And to ignore it and expect it to go away, that's just not being realistic. And when you're talking about different ministries and different things that you may be participating in the community,
right?
to ignore the fact that there are people suffering in silence, you're not a good steward. These people, you're in charge of these people. If you're a pastor or you're a minister or you're a leader in your community, those people they are in your care. And to pretend like these things don't happen when we know 1 in 4, 1 in 10, it's happening. And this month, Domestic Violence Aware is our opportunity to bring these things to the forefront that people try to turn a blind eye to, as if, well, we don't have to worry about that over here. Well, statistics say otherwise.
That is so interesting, and just to I think that goes without saying, and I put what Val said. Thank you for joining us, Val. So good to see you. Val says they just say pray about it. She's right, and we just do that. We do the over spiritualized thing, and we let it be, but the dysfunction is still happening. The abuse is still happening. The predators. Right. Thank you, Carissa. She's out there. She's joined us as well. Yes, they're ignoring it. The predator is still on the loose. The person who is doing the do is actually still out and doing it. Yes. And most times, and if you can correct me if I'm wrong, most time the person that is being abused, the abuser is forcing them to be quiet about the abuse. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. And the sad part about it, even with young girls get touched inappropriately, which goes back to the sexual assault, molestation, all those topics that people don't like to talk about. And those girls grow up to be teenagers who then are susceptible to being abused because they've been taught to shut up, be quiet, don't say nothing. No one's going to believe you anyway. And that's sad. And those are the same girls that a lot of times when they walk into church, they may be dressed inappropriately. Are they addressed in love from someone else to say, hey, baby, let me talk to you?
Right.
No, they're usually called, that little fast girl, or, she always into something, and she's this and she's that, and she gets called all these labels and labeled instead of addressing the problem. Why has she become this way? And why will this same girl end up in a relationship with someone who treats her wrong? They don't have to put their hands on her to abuse her.
Right.
There's emotional abuse, verbal abuse. Right. Mental abuse, financial abuse. There's all different types of abuse that can happen when a person already does not know their value. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. Abuse comes in so many different ways. I know we're talking about, domestic abuse, and because October is Domestic Abuse Awareness Month, most people only think about it in just violence. So I'm glad you said that. Abuse comes in so many different forms. It can be financially, it can be verbally, it just can be so many different things. It just depends on the situation. I'm so loving the conversation, but I really want to dive more into this, especially with the church. Gosh, the one thing that we both share in common, we grew up in the same organization. And we grew up in church. I'll just say that. We just grew up in church. And
in the church, 6-7 days a week.
Don't get me started. Monday night, usher boy number 1, number 2, Tuesday night, prayer meeting, Wednesday night, Bible study, Thursday night, choir rehearsal. Choir number 1 and choir number 2. And if you was a big church, it was a choir number 3.
And Terry service on Friday.
Don't get started. Don't get me started. All night. And then we come back on Sunday morning and we stay all day. He has Sunday school, morning service, night service, afternoon service.
FFU.
Come on. And
Yes.
a lot of times we're not dealing with the things that we're preaching, we're speaking in tongues, we're dancing, we're hearing all of the good music, but where are we really being ministered to? Where's the effectiveness in our ministries when
Right.
we have people in our congregations silently going through just trauma.
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 Let me just say that.
Yeah.
They're going through trauma in their own, sitting on the pew, smiling
That's right.
in church, putting
That's right.
on face.
Putting on the
The
face.
greeters, the ushers, I mean,
No, and that now I know why we used to have that one mean usher. The one
wait.
mean usher. Did anybody ever find out why the usher was so mad? Why she so mean?
I think we neglected asking, because we can all identify with something or somebody within the church that just they kept face, or they just, there was something that was silently going on. Nobody
Yes.
nobody would know. And they just, I like Carissa's answer. She said they showed up mad and they hurt.
Yeah.
They showed up mad and they're hurt. They're
Yes.
hurt.
Yes.
So,
And nobody bothered to ask, because you know what they say? Oh, that's just how she is.
and that's not acceptable. And I
No,
think that's
it's
the
not.
thing that we need to put the silence to, is that it's not okay.
No, it's not okay.
And so let's talk about this as a leader. I'm a pastor of a church, and I'm trying to figure out, you may not know what it is to or someone to go through domestic abuse or sexual assault or what have you. As a pastor and as a leader, what do you say? What do you say? Because there may be somebody's going to watch this, and they're a
Yes.
leader, they're a pastor, and they have somebody, they know somebody that is actually suffering through that, and they don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do.
What
I would say
advice
that-
would you give them?
I would say one of the first things I would say, being a survivor and having to approach my pastor during that time, thank God for her. She believed me. So the very first thing a pastor can do, if you know a member is being abused, or a member comes to you and tells you about an incident that happened, first of all, believe them.
Yeah.
Believe them.
Yeah, that's good.
The worst thing you can do is blame a victim for something someone else did to them. You cannot, as a person, you can't control someone else's behavior. And as a pastor, you should understand that this woman did not, or this man did not want to be abused. And if they're coming to you, it's hard enough to even admit it happened than someone to make you feel like it was your fault.
So wait, Lorrie. So you've known leaders that actually play the blame game?
Oh, absolutely.
They'll blame the member or blame the person that is actually being abused.
Yes.
Wow.
I have been told personally, not by my pastor at the time. My pastor at the time was wonderful. Pastor McCleary helped save my life. But the pastor that my ex-husband was, the church he was attending, the pastor and his wife, we went and met with them. My pastor and she drove me to their house to say, listen, we need to tell you what's going on with your minister. And this woman, his wife, told me, baby, you need to pray for him. That's your husband. Make sure you're doing what you need to do around the house, and make sure you're taking care of him, and make sure you're doing this and don't. It was an immediate turnoff.
Wow.
An immediate turnoff.
And probably in that moment you felt helpless.
Yeah, I'm like, we're coming to you because this is your minister saying, listen, this is a problem. And they only backed him, stood up for him.
Wow.
And we got in the car, and I never addressed them again because they didn't understand that this was serious. They didn't understand how serious this was. And I would say to any pastor that wants to get this right, believe the victim. If someone comes to you, believe me, it was not easy to come to you. It's not easy to admit that you're going through these type things. So if someone comes to you, believe them. And if you don't know how to help them, there are resources out there. And as a leader in your community, you should know. And if you don't know, you need to go find out. Where's the nearest shelter? If you don't want your member in a shelter, have a plan for them. At least have some type of hotel or motel or something that you have an agreement with that you can help them, or another single sister who has maybe room. And that was the blessing I had. I was in a church where the other ladies in the church allowed me to come stay with them.
Wow. This is so good. And the information that you're sharing is life-changing. And my prayer is that someone is watching this feed, or when this gets replayed again, that they heed your advice. They heed your advice.
This podcast is being brought to you by B Apparel. B Apparel is a streetwear brand that is on a mission to remind, empower, and mobilize a generation to be who they were created to be. B Apparel. For more information, go to www.beapparelbrand.com. That's BEAPPARELBRAND.com. Use the code HARMON21 at checkout for an extra 10% discount. Again, that's HARMON21 at checkout for an extra 10% discount.
Because this is literally a life or death situation when it happens. In the process of it happening, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and put the information up again about the resources that are available. National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. There's the website there. National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE. Again, 1-800-799-7233. I think it's really, really important that people really understand the seriousness of this. As a musician, as singers in church, working in creative arts and so on and so forth, people silently suffer. And it doesn't have to be.
No.
And the thing about it, and I go back to your book, you're so transparent as you're telling your stories, as you're describing the way you felt going through certain situations. And I just want to advise or just encourage everyone out there, go to Amazon.com and go to Lorrie's website and please download her book free. And it is a very good read. And you would tell those stories in the church. This
stuff. Yeah, it wasn't like I was out in the world, so to speak. This is something that happened in the church, and my life was saved because I had people around me who paid attention and listened to what I said was going on with me and didn't just blow me off.
Right.
One thing about being a minister, minister of worship, or playing instruments, or the usher for that matter. If you have ministries working in your church and 10 to 15 to 20% of these ministers working actively in your ministry have issues from domestic violence, from being sexually assaulted or abused or molested or whatever it may be, or watching their mom get abused or watching their dad get abused, or whether it's alcohol abuse, drug abuse, whatever the addiction or the affliction may be, these unaddressed issues are hurting your ministry.
Wow. Yeah.
They're hurting.
Yeah.
Because they get up and they're doing praise and worship. And I think I shared with you one time, I was up doing praise and worship I barely made it into church before praise and worship started.
Yeah.
And had just had a fight ended early that morning. I still had bruises, and I ran in to do praise and worship because church was my haven. That was my haven.
Yeah.
And I had on a long sleeve shirt, button up, not because I was so saved and holy, but I was trying to cover up. So I had long sleeves on. Mind you, now I'm in Panama City, but I had bruises on my chest standing up there in choir, in praise and worship, singing my heart out. I wasn't crying because I was so caught up in the spirit. I was crying because I was hurting physically. And people have to understand, when your worship team is not clicking or your musicians aren't clicking, maybe, just maybe, we need to stop and assess the situation and address it. If you don't have the counselors on staff or the ministries on staff to address people who are dealing with abuse, people who have been traumatized by things that have happened to them, then seek it out in the community and partner with some community health organizations or mental health organizations to get this stuff addressed, if you're about your ministry.
Wow. You know, that's really powerful. And I really, my prayers, a lot of the ministers or those that are watching live with us on today, that they take heed to the words that you're saying. There's so many times we see people in, I like to call it the church face. We just made up. We come in and it's just just formality. It's formality, and we just know how to wear it. We know what to say. We know when to say it. We go through the motions, and we're so disconnected. From the neck up, where we try to be alive, but we're not present. And the sad thing I think about it is that nobody's asking questions. Nobody's concerned. Nobody is pursuing what it is we need to do to help or find resources to help this person, that person out, even in our own churches. And I know we deal with this stuff. People are ashamed to talk about it at home. People are ashamed to talk about it within their own family. Because we sometimes, even within our own families, we're ignorant to what's happening or what's going on, or we over spiritualize. And there could be many other factors, but I just know that we don't shed light on what's obvious, that there's a problem.
Yes. I've had young women open up to me once my book got published. Young women opened up to me, and someone came and confided in me because she had a niece who, when she would bring up being, molested as a child or whatever, her mom didn't want to talk about it. She told her that was so long ago. You really need to get over it.
Wow.
And that's sad.
It is sad.
To tell someone to get over trauma, just get over it. But that affects every aspect of that young girl's life. It affects your self-esteem. I'm speaking from experience. It affects your self-esteem, how you view yourself, how you look at yourself, how you allow other people to treat you. Yeah. So you've got dysfunction going on in the house, and you've got to know that dysfunction flows over into your ministry.
Yeah. And it does. And I think when people start to realize that and start to see it and call it out for what it really, really is, we'll start to see a difference in our ministries. I think that's the whole thing. I think we forgot the definition of ministry. It actually means to serve. What about that? That ministry means servant.
Yes. Yes.
Jesus was a servant leader. He was a servant leader.
It. So, and that's the word I started using 2 years ago, servant leader. And there's meaning behind that.
Yeah. And it means a lot. When people see, when they understand the the position that you take. Sometimes as leaders, we don't necessarily have to come with the authority, if you know what I mean. You know, we love to, people that are in leadership love to drop their authoritative role or authority on situations that really don't deem authority. And where there should be authority, we don't put the emphasis on what needs to be, you know, where the leadership needs to be taken. I think we really need to understand what's really happening. And as you stated, since the pandemic, it is and I'm sure, I know you were saying you would love to see the numbers. I am certain that those numbers have probably gone up.
Oh yeah.
Because people have been isolated in their own homes.
Yeah, we did a survey. I did a survey several months ago for the Sarasota Strong Group, and I surveyed the shelters and the abuse shelters, the local abuse shelters in the Tampa Bay area, to see who had beds left, who had services available during pandemic. They had beds empty. They actually were not overcrowded.
Wow.
Because people were not coming.
Wow.
And that's scary.
Wow.
That's scary. So, you know, as community leaders and pastors and ministers, if you had a congregation of just 100 people, how did you connect with these people through all this trauma? People have died. People have lost their jobs. People have no job to go back to. Children at home. That's a crisis in itself.
Right.
You got children home all day, but yet you only have one paycheck or no paychecks now. How are we as ministries connecting with these people, checking on them?
Right.
And then you throw in a little mental health issue here and there that's gonna show up during COVID while you're home, and throw in, you know, a little domestic violence in there. That's an explosion waiting to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't bring up the whole mental illness thing. That's probably a whole nother discussion within itself. And I think too, with leaders and people that are unaware of the, you know, what abuse looks like, what domestic abuse looks like, what sexual assault looks like. It's, you know, the amazing thing about having this discussion is that resources are available. You don't have to have all the answers. I think that's the big thing that, you know, that's kind of a takeaway from me. You don't have to have all the answers. No. It's about what you do to show or present. Sometimes having something there that's available to those that are suffering. And you may not know that person was suffering, but because of the resource that was available to those that are suffering, now all of a sudden you have someone that has actually come out of the shell and now is talking about something that they normally would not have been talking about because you made something available that normally wasn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Just start the conversation. Start the conversation like we're having now. Start the conversation. It does not have to be taboo. It's not taboo. It's happening. Yeah. And you can sit around and people can sit around and try to act like it's not their problem. But, you know, if you're a servant leader, you're a servant to all. You can't just say, well, you know, they got issues in their marriage. It's not even about having issues in the marriage. Domestic abuse is so much more than that. Yeah. You know, you can have some people that have been married 15, 20 years. And be in a situation where, you know, someone has a mental illness now, or a child is sick, or there's all different type of things that can trigger certain behaviors. Yeah. But again, are we directing people to get some type of mental health counseling? Are we directing people to go get help? Or are we just saying, well, we just going to pray for them. We're going to bring them together and we're going to lay hands. We're going to put some oil on them and we're going to cast that demon out. Okay, after you get through casting that demon out, give them a phone number to where they can get some help.
Exactly.
Or you're going to be casting it out next week.
Right. Exactly. I love what Val said. She says talking about DV, domestic violence, over the pulpit is a must. I so agree. It is a must. It is a must. We can't. We just can't negate it. We can't just walk over it like it just doesn't exist. And I'm so glad that we're having this conversation. And again, I want to, as we're bringing this conversation to a close, I want to bring those resources back up again so that they are made available to all. I only listed the Florida Coalition Against Domestic Violence in Georgia. Those two are listed, I guess, because, Lorrie is in Florida. I am in Georgia. But again, I would definitely call the 1-800 number that is on the screen. Yes. Go to the hotline website.org, or just call 1-800-799-7233 or 1-800-799-SAFE to get more information about domestic violence. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, Lorrie. And again, thank you for agreeing to do this. Again, with this being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I think it's important. We're in this pandemic. We are both. We've worked in education. I'm still working in the education field. Our kids, they suffer because of the silence. And sometimes the kids go through, or they come to school, or they're in their environment, they're in their surroundings, and they're dealing, and they don't know how to deal. We see them acting out, but we don't realize that the acting out is a result of some hurt or some trauma that they're actually experiencing.
Yes, and don't try. And the first thing the teachers are going to do is assume, this child can't sit still, can't pay attention. So, we need to go get him evaluated for ADHD. And it has nothing to do with that. Yeah. Nothing to do with that. Maybe they have anxiety because of what they deal with at home.
Right.
It's so much more. I do have my 5 takeaways.
Yes, I was just getting ready to ask you about that. So we're getting ready to come to the conclusion, but you have 5 takeaways that you wanted to share. Please go right ahead.
So, 5 takeaways. As a minister, as a pastor, as a community leader, what can you do for survivors? First of all, number 1, believe them. If someone is being abused, if someone has suffered assault, believe them when they tell you. And that's number 1. Number 2, don't betray them. So if someone approaches you, a member, a community member, or neighbor approaches you, don't betray them when they entrust you with the information that they've been abused or they fear for their life. Because the moment you go and tell that abuser, or you tell the person that they told you abused them, you could cause them to get killed. You could cause them to lose their life. Yeah. So don't betray them. Number 3, don't minimize their pain or their abuse. Don't minimize it. Don't tell them, well, it wasn't that bad. At least he didn't punch you in the face, or at least he didn't put you out the car. Oh, it's not that bad. Girl, you can get something and put on that. Do not minimize abuse. Do not minimize if someone comes to you and explains to you what happened to them. Number 4, if you advise them to leave, the person that is abusing them, have a plan. So if someone comes to you and you're their minister, you're their pastor, you're their community leader, and they say, you need to leave, have a plan. Because if you don't have a plan and they have to return to the home where they're being abused, they could be killed. Their life could be taken just because they attempted to leave. The most dangerous time for a person suffering domestic violence is when they try to leave.
Wow.
And last thing, offer counseling, offer therapy. If they've got children, find a way to get those children into therapy. Find a way to get this person counseled. Domestic violence counseling does not cost anything. You can go to a local domestic violence shelter and get counseling. There are resources out there. It's not about the money. It's about you caring enough to invest in this person and make sure they are healthy, mind, body, and soul.
Wow. That was profound. For those of you all that didn't catch that, I did put it in the chat below. Such great advice, Lorrie. Number one, believe them. Number two, don't betray them. Don't betray them. Number three, don't minimize their pain or their abuse. Number four, if you advise them to leave, have a plan. You know, I know this sometimes seems like it's common sense, but I've learned that common sense ain't so common.
It's not.
It's not so common. And number five, offer therapy and or counseling. I think it's important that we don't shun those particular roles. Counseling is very, very needed. Therapy is very, very needed. For us in the Black community, let me just say that. For most of us for pretty much all of us in the Black community, therapy is definitely needed. We've gone through so much trauma within our own community that yes, therapy is very much needed, and we shun it. We don't think it's important. We think it's for a select group of people, or we think it's for the crazy folks, or all these myths we need to debunk. It's not right, and we need it. We need to get back to ourselves. We need to understand that we're not actually crazy. That, you know, once I talk about it to someone that can help me, I'm actually bettering myself. So thank you so much, Lorrie. This is the advice that is given is so good, and I just pray that someone gleans from the advice that you gave.
Mm-hmm.
Those 5 points are really, really good. Yes.
Hopefully somebody, can get free.
And go get
trauma.
The book. Yes. No pun intended, but go get the book.
Find out how to get free.
Yes.
How to get FREE.
Free. This is so good. This is Sandy Bailey says, I need Christ and a counselor. That's right. We need both. We need Christ and a counselor. I'm sorry. Sandy Bailey says we need Christ and a counselor. I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
So
Jesus and a therapist.
Right. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much, Lorrie, for coming on. And again, this is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, the month of October. And people are trying to get in contact with you, Lorrie.
Yes.
I'm going to put your information on the screen, but how can they reach you? Do you have a website, all that good stuff for them to reach you on?
Yes. So if you go to the website, www.victoryoverviolencefl.com, you can reach me there, or you can go to Facebook, Instagram, send a direct message. It will come straight to me. And if you need help and you've not reached out to the hotline and you just need to be connected to resources, you can also reach me on Facebook through victoryoverviolencefl.com, or you can also go to my personal website, which is Lorrie A. There's an author. My author website is, author Lorrie A.
Wixsite.com. Mm-hmm.
Wait, it's on there.
Yes, author Lorrie A.wixsite.com/free.
Or if you want the book, go to Amazon.com, get the book. Email me, authorlorrie@gmail.com. And also the phone numbers are on there. You are welcome to call me at the office, which is the 938-4797, area code 813. Or you can text me at 352-348-2244. So I am available. I do workshops. I can present on multiple topics related to domestic violence and sexual assault. Just contact me. Let me know.
Well, Lorrie, thank you again. This is good. You've given so much great information, and thank you all for joining us on today. I'm excited. I'm excited for not only the awareness that we were able to display on this Facebook Live, but on Dante's Harmony, my podcast. But to the millions of those that will be affected through hearing something that will change their perspective, change their life, for a leader from a church organization or from a community organization that will listen to this, that will change their perspective on how they see abuse or how they see domestic violence, and what we need to do within our communities to make a difference. I just hope that something was said, something was shared, thought was a seed was just dropped, so that you can just take a nugget and take it to your community and make a difference. Make a difference. Thank you so much, Lorrie.
No, thank you for the platform.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone that has joined us on today for Dante's Harmony. Again, my name is Dante Harmon. And again, thank you, Lorrie, for joining me and bringing awareness to this this disease called domestic violence, to this disease called sexual assault. We really need to bring more awareness to this type of thing. So thank you again. And for those of you all that have joined me, thank you.